Hello, welcome back to our journey. In this class, I will teach you how to do a digital marketing plan in practice. I will present you with a spreadsheet that will serve as a model for you to create your own way of doing this planning. Of course, you can use other methods and software that exist on the market to accomplish this same task, or you can create your own spreadsheet. The idea is to give you the necessary parameters so that you can organize your digital marketing efforts and create a consistent plan that brings effective results for your business. And to make everything clearer, let's continue with an example that we've already used in previous classes, Salesforce.com. Imagine that you are responsible for digital marketing at Salesforce in Brazil, and you are going to put together the annual planning for the demand generation area for small and medium-sized companies. Create a spreadsheet in Excel or another software of your choice with the following columns. ICP, which is the ideal customer profile that you have already defined. Ideal contact, which is the position, function, or type of person who participates in the purchasing process or influences it. Persona, which is the semi-fictional description of your ideal contact. Channel, which is the means by which you will communicate with each persona. Content, which is the type of subject, theme or agenda that will be communicated to the personas. Format, which are the ways in which the content is represented in each channel that will be used. Frequency, which is the time interval between events and the number of times that we will repeat a certain action. Monthly budget, which refers to the financial value that will be invested in advertising that content. Observations, which is the spreadsheet field where we will enter any important instructions, such as reposting on other social networks, or the need for someone to approve the content, in short, any information that is not in the other columns. Months and weeks of the year, which are the fields where we will enter the amount of content that will be produced and when it will be published on the various channels. In this spreadsheet, we have 12 months with 4 weeks each. You can modify this spreadsheet by adding more months, or even fewer. You can also replace the weeks with the exact days. It all depends on the needs of your business and the volume of content that will be published. The first column of the spreadsheet is the ICP, the ideal customer profile. Here, in the case of Salesforce, we fill it in with something like technology companies with up to 200 employees and a consultative sales model, among other characteristics, as we saw in the class on this subject. Next, we have the ideal contact. In this field, you indicate who is the decision maker within this type of company. In the case of Salesforce, the IT manager can be one of these ideal contacts, as he or she is the one who will perform the technical feasibility analysis of the software. Therefore, his or her opinion will greatly influence the purchasing decision. Then we have the persona. Here you just enter the name of the persona that you previously created, such as Carla Silva, who we talked about in the class on personas. Now let's move on to the next column of our planning, channel. A channel is any means of digital communication between your company or brand and your audience, that is, the personas of each of your ideal customer profiles. And this is where a strategic choice begins. Different channels serve different purposes and different audiences. Let's start with social media. If your business is B2C, that is, aimed at the end consumer, the most suitable channels are Instagram, excellent for visual and fast consumption products, such as fashion, beauty and food. TikTok, ideal for short, creative and viral videos, often used by young and dynamic brands. Facebook, still relevant for older audiences and great for targeted campaigns via groups or ads. Pinterest, great for decoration, party planning, fashion and visual inspirational content. Now, if your business is B2B, that is, you sell to other companies, the most strategic channels are LinkedIn, excellent for building authority, connecting with decision makers and disseminating technical content. YouTube, widely used by companies for tutorials, webinars and educational content. Twitter, now called X, useful for companies that want to position themselves in real time, comment on trends and reinforce authority. And we also have niche social networks. For example, Goodreads, perfect for those who sell books, promote authors or are in the publishing market. Behance and Dribbble, recommended for designers, illustrators and creative agencies. But it doesn't stop there. Other, less obvious digital channels should also be part of your planning. One of them is email. Email marketing continues to be one of the channels with the best return on investment. You can use it to nurture relationships with your base, send promotions, or educate your audience with newsletters. Another strategic channel is the blog. It works as a knowledge base for your brand. When you write articles optimized with SEO techniques, you attract organic and qualified traffic. We also have messaging as a digital channel. WhatsApp, Telegram, Facebook Messenger, and even chats on websites with bots are powerful for direct sales, customer service, and reactivation. And yes, SMS is still used. Security companies, banks, transportation, and healthcare apps continue to use this channel due to its high delivery rate and reliability. In the case of Salesforce, as it is a more B2B business, it would mainly use LinkedIn, blog, email marketing, and YouTube. But it could also use Instagram to strengthen the institutional and WhatsApp for more direct content after a conversion. Next comes the content column. This column is the heart of the planning. Here you describe the subjects, themes and agendas that will be discussed with each persona, in this case, with Carla Silva, Technology Manager. With this column, the content needs to speak directly about technical challenges and practical solutions. For example, how to integrate CIM with the company's internal systems, security and reliability in the cloud in consultative sales environments, best practices for automating processes between IT and sales teams, technical use cases of Salesforce APIs for developers, low-code and no-code tools to increase the productivity of the technology team. You can also vary the types of content in this column with product launches and updates, celebrations related to technology or innovation, such as IT Day or events like Web Summit, internal content on innovation culture and digital transformation, broader educational materials, such as white papers, webinars, and tutorials. The goal here is to generate real value with topics that directly interest this technical profile and help in the decision to purchase or adopt the platform. Now that you understand what content is, let's move on to the next column of the spreadsheet, format. Format is the type of presentation of the content that you will publish on each channel. Let's look at some examples. On Instagram, the main formats are static image in the feed, image carousel, reels, short videos with visual appeal, stories, short content, ideal for showing behind the scenes, conducting polls and generating proximity, highlights, great for pinning educational or sales content. On LinkedIn, the formats are a little different. Long texts and articles to demonstrate knowledge, PDFs in carousel which work as presentations, videos with case studies or behind the scenes of the company, polls to generate engagement with the professional community. On niche networks like Goodreads, the format is different. There the focus is on reviews, book lists and interactions in forums and reading clubs. In email marketing, you can use weekly or monthly newsletters, promotional campaigns focused on conversion, automatic sequences, such as welcome, abandoned cart, or re-engagement. In messaging, the formats are short messages with an action button, automated conversations with questions and answers, simple reminder or alert notifications. The most important thing is to understand that the format needs to match the channel and the behavior of your persona in that space. When filling in the channel and format columns in your spreadsheet, always think, who is my audience? Where are they? And how do they consume content on that channel? And then we come to the frequency column, and here it's worth pausing for a moment to delve deeper. Frequency is more than just a number on a spreadsheet. It's what builds rhythm, habit, and brand presence. If you post randomly, your audience will lose interest or simply won't see your brand regularly. But if you post consistently, you increase your chances of being remembered, of gradually educating the customer, and of building trust. On social media, frequency directly influences engagement and organic reach. The Instagram algorithm, for example, tends to favor those who post frequently. On LinkedIn, maintaining a weekly presence helps build authority and keep your profile active for your audience's network. In addition, maintaining a cadence allows you to understand what works. You start to have comparative data. What type of content generates the most clicks? What time delivers the best? But how do you know what the ideal frequency is? The first step is to look at the benchmarks in your industry. If other B2B companies publish on LinkedIn twice a week, you already have a minimum reference. If your competitors send out a bi-weekly newsletter, perhaps a monthly newsletter is enough to get you started. Or, on the contrary, it can challenge you to be more present. You can also use competitor analysis tools, or simply observe the most active profiles in your niche and understand how they position themselves. In our Salesforce example, the frequency could be as follows: technical post on LinkedIn every Tuesday, video on YouTube every 2 weeks, monthly newsletter segmented by persona, quarterly webinars focused on specific solutions. The recommendation is, start with what you can maintain with quality, then increase according to the results and the team structure. In your spreadsheet, this column can be filled with terms such as weekly, monthly, every 15 days, or even with specific days, every Monday. This decision, when well thought out, completely changes the way your audience perceives your brand. And if it is made based on data, both internal and market data, it will help you better plan content, define deliveries more clearly, and improve the overall performance of your digital strategy. The next column in the spreadsheet is monthly budget. And here, we will talk specifically about paid media, that is, the investment in boosting content on platforms such as Meta Ads and Google Ads. It is important to make it clear, the value you enter in this column refers to the specific action in that row of the spreadsheet. In other words, it is not the total budget for the month, but rather the estimated value to promote that content or campaign, if applicable. And yes, this means that not all content needs paid media. Some content can be just organic, like an educational blog post or a series of stories with quick tips. But other content, which has a direct goal of conversion, reach, or lead capture, can and should be boosted. Let's now talk about the two most used platforms for paid media, Meta Ads and Google Ads. Meta Ads is the advertising system that serves Instagram, Facebook, and, in some cases, WhatsApp. It is ideal for boosting visually appealing posts, product ads, short videos, and promotions. You can target by interest, region, job title, or even previous interactions with your profile. Google Ads, on the other hand, is more geared towards moments of active search. If the persona is searching on Google for terms such as CRM integration with ERP or B2B sales automation, that is where your brand can appear. Google also allows you to run video ads on YouTube or on partner sites via banners. In our Salesforce example, with the persona Carla Silva, the planning might include $1,500 to promote a technical video on YouTube about cloud security, $800 to promote a carousel on LinkedIn with a technical white paper, $300 to test a Google search campaign with industry-specific keywords. These values would be filled in individually in the spreadsheet rows that address these actions. Now, if a certain line in the spreadsheet represents purely institutional content, or a post with no conversion objective, you can leave this field blank or indicate that there will be no boosting. The goal of this column is to help you get clear on where it's worth investing in paid media and how much you're willing to test and optimize for each type of content. You can fill in fixed amounts, such as $500 or $2,000, or write to be defined if it's a campaign that depends on a later budget or initial validation. The final tip is, don't invest in everything, invest wisely. Use the data from the first few months to understand which channels and formats offer the best cost-benefit ratio, and with that, better direct your budget. Now let's talk about two very important parts of your planning, the observations column and the month of the year columns. The observations column serves as a free field to supplement information that does not fit into the other columns. It is the ideal space to record specific guidelines, exceptions, reuses, or any logistical detail that is relevant to the execution of that action. For example, you can use this column to indicate that content published on Instagram should also be reposted on LinkedIn and Facebook, or note that the action should only be published during a specific promotional campaign. You can also indicate something like, send via WhatsApp to qualified leads, publish only after review by the sales team, or content links to product launch. These observations help maintain alignment between teams, avoid doubts in production, and ensure that the content is used in the most strategic way possible. Now let's move on to the month columns, from January to December. Each one is divided into 4 cells, which represent the 4 weeks of the month. These spaces are used to distribute your actions over time, marking how many times that content will be published in each week of the month. For example, if you have content that is published every 2 weeks and you want to publish it in the first and third week of March, simply write 1 in the first and third cells of the March column. This indicates that there will be a publication in that specific week. If it's a weekly piece of content, like a blog post or a YouTube video, you might put a 1 in all 4 weeks. If it's 2 posts per week, you'd put a 2 in each corresponding cell. And if the action is not performed that month, or in a specific week, the field can simply be left blank. This type of marking allows you to have a quick and accurate visual schedule, facilitating frequency control, production organization, and alignment between channels and campaigns. Plus, you can easily see which weeks are busiest and which ones still have room for new actions, which helps a lot when planning special dates, launches, or tactical adjustments. Use this part of the spreadsheet to ensure consistency, avoid improvisation, and maintain a balanced digital presence throughout the year. We have reached the end of our class, and now it is time to recap the most important points. Throughout the planning, you learned how to fill in each of the columns that structure a digital marketing plan for the entire year. We started by defining the ideal customer profile, followed by the ideal contact and the persona, which help us understand who we are talking to and what their real needs are. Then, we move on to the channel, where the content will be distributed, and to the content column, where we record the themes and guidelines relevant to each profile. Next, we choose the format, which is the way the content will be delivered. It can be a video, carousel, technical post, email, or any other format appropriate to the channel. We also talked about frequency, which ensures consistency, fosters engagement on social networks, and helps create habits in your audience. And we highlighted the importance of looking at market and competitor benchmarks to make more strategic decisions. Next, we move on to the monthly budget, focusing on paid media. We learned how to indicate, line by line, which actions will be promoted on platforms such as Meta Ads or Google Ads, and how this investment needs to be made with intention, not on impulse. We then talked about the observations column, where you record specific instructions for each action, such as content use, restrictions, or internal alignments. And finally, we saw how to use the monthly columns, from January to December, to organize the frequency of publications per week, facilitating the execution schedule throughout the year. This planning is much more than a spreadsheet. It is a strategic tool that helps you ensure a constant digital presence, organize content production clearly, and better direct investment in paid media. With it, you stop acting on the spur of the moment and start communicating with consistency, purpose, and alignment with your business objectives. So, now it's time for you to practice and put together your own digital marketing planning spreadsheet and test everything you've learned so far. Starting in the next class, we will begin discussing the second vertex of our digital triangle, the provision of services through digital channels. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you in the next class.